I'm very happy that we host two distinguished guests on environmental policy, climate policy in Europe and in Turkey here in our university today. We have first Csula Hegyi from Hungary. He is a former member of the European Parliament, but he also worked for the European Commission, member of the Party of the European Socialists. When he was parliamentarian in the European Parliament, he was also a rapporteur in the Committee on Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, where he worked in particular on pollution problems in European Union cities, and wrote reports about how to improve the quality of life, the quality of air in European Union cities. In addition, Mr. Hegyi also works as a journalist for Hungarian and also English newspapers such as The Guardian, for instance. Yes, welcome, Mr. Hegyi. And we have Ümit Şahin from Sabancı University as our guest today. Ümit teaches global climate change and environmental policy and politics at Sabancı University. He is also a coordinator of the climate change studies at Eastern Policy Center, which also belongs to Sabancı University. In addition, he is part of the Green movement in Turkey, founder of the Green Party in Turkey, editor of an ecological journal, advisor for the Green Thought Foundation, and published several books and articles on environmental policy, in particular climate policy here in Turkey. Yes, welcome, Ümit Şahin. Before we start, one student asked me before I start the introduction. There is class on Thursday, and we will wrap up this seminar, and you are, remember, obliged to write a little summary of the presentation. So we have common discussion ground then for our Thursday session. Okay. Please.
Me? Yes. Thank you very much. First of all, I start to speak about what I was asked about. Promotion of environmental standards EU concerning Turkey. And perhaps it will be a little bit boring because I will quote and name different organizations in Turkey. But learning from the morning session, usually we had very good questions, so I think that most exciting part comes with the new question. But anyhow, people used to say, and the EU bureaucrats used to believe, that the European Union has the highest environmental standards. I try to speak about how true this statement is. Anyhow, the idea the European Union says that we are a fraction of the social values, the environmental standards should be very high in the European Union, and if a so-called third country contacts us, the European Union, this country has to accept, follow our high environmental standards. You know, perhaps most probably you heard about the Europe 2020 and 2030 agenda for sustainable development. It has different numbers and different goals. The most important was also mentioned by Professor that 40% increase in the CO2 emissions. Those are different kind of nice goals. First, the 2020 agenda was created, then they realized it's even more encouraging to size the 2020 to 2030, and if something doesn't happen in 2000, definitely happen in 2030. Some critics of the European Union say that this game with the dates and game with the numbers, it cannot replace the real active steps forward. And sometimes the gap between the initiatives and the reality. Anyhow, the European Union definitely was behind the 2050 Paris Agreement, and the Paris Agreement is not an ideal solution for combating the climate change. At least there was something step forward, and the European Union was really the driving the Paris Agreement. So without the EU, even this small step is done. Inside the European Union, of course, there are different situations. There are 28 countries, different regions, developed, less regions, and there are some pioneer projects can be very exciting or very positive for others. For instance, the promotion of the electronic transport is in Amsterdam a very good idea. So-called eco-cities or eco-cities like Malmö, Sweden, they try to change not only one part of their urban policy, but the whole urban policy, the housing, the transport, the heating, sewage system, waste management, everything put under one umbrella. The umbrella is follow the ecological goal, the ecological values. So there are the so-called small cities, smart cities, like Barcelona, but in the political groups, we have different stories about Barcelona. This small example shows that we concentrate on environment, but of course, not only the environment which moves the world around. So, political conference. Barcelona, where people don't care so much about the environment nowadays, they care more about the political situation. There's a so-called initiative by the European Union which can be very interesting, so-called providing environmental values for so-called third countries. There's a so-called environmental goods agreement, EGA, which tries to provide cheaper access to environmental goods and technologies for so-called third countries, having a positive effect trade of green goods, control of air pollution, for instance, and generally less reuse. For the European Union, the so-called palm oil, palm oil, is a very important issue because generally we speak about the positive effect of the biofuel. But producing bioenergy from the palm oil, it means that we have to destroy the rainforest, many parts of the world. For instance, in Malaysia and Indonesia, more than 5 million hectares of forest have been cut already just to produce palm. Mostly, more or less, whole territory of Switzerland size part of the rainforest was cut just to produce palm oil. And that's why the European Union has more worrying about this palm oil business, deforestation, which on the other hand, of course, is a very good business. I was in Singapore some years ago, and many Singaporean companies benefit for the palm oil industry, while, of course, because the people living in Singapore, they suffer because of the environmental effect. The same they company for Singapore is on the border, sea border between Singapore and Indonesia. So it shows double side of the European environmental and economic policy that are big business in growth. They make their achievements, investments, sometimes not so environment friendly. And then other side of the European Union, Parliament, the Commission, the NGOs, they worry about the effects of the same activities of they. The food security, the safe food is very important for the EU, as we are importing lots of foods from different parts of the world. So we have a general food law regulation. There is a protected designation of origin, PGO, which means that food should come from a place where it's designated on the paper, or the market, or the brand. The protected geographical indication, PGI, the information and food that. It means that the real geographical indication should handle the food. The European Union spends a lot on environmental issues. More or less 20% of the overall budget of the European Union was set for climate projects, 20%. Of course, when the Brexit comes, it means that as, the budget of the European Union will be smaller. There will be a debate how to refinance our activities, but there is a strong consensus among the European politicians that the climate project should be great. So the exact amount of money should be made, so even the budget will be smaller. And most probably other funds, for instance, the agriculture cap, common agriculture policy will be a little bit cut because of the Brexit. The next question, how we can implement our noble, so-called noble ideas in the international trade policy. Morning I start to speak about it, but not I follow it. When usually and in principle, when the European Union makes a free trade agreement, generally if the European Union trades with any other third country, there should be three considerations: economic, of course, trade, money, environmental, and social. These three aspects should be put together. Sometimes easy, sometimes not so easy. There is a lot of agenda. There is an agenda 2030. The members of this agenda is the European Union 17 sustainable development. There are 17 sustainable development goals, targets set by the United Nations for 2030. The European Union was very active to set up this agenda 2030, and if we see what kind of initiatives and what kind of values are in this agenda 2030, we see that the EU trade policy aims to ensure that the economic development goes hand in hand with different values like social justice, respect for human rights, high labor standards, high environmental standards. That's what the focus. But I will just know to show you that it's not so easy. I just quote one small example. When Europe and the European Union and South Korea signed a trade agreement, it happened that the standards for gasoline cars were higher in South Korea than in Europe. But the Koreans followed the very high US California standards. Why does California so high gasoline car standards? The former governor, Schwarzenegger, believe that Schwarzenegger was a governor of California for 2 times 5 years. He had a very, very progressive environmental approach. He was a Republican, but he could sell his ideas. That's why California has far higher, at least in the gasoline cars, standards. It's good to know that they are not always the best. They are not always the best. So, when the South Korea European Union talks of trade started, the EU goal was to push down a little bit Korean standard. I just mentioned it that it's not a one-way street, that the wisdom that comes from Europe. Never believe. But anyhow, generally, the modern EU trade agreements say that we have every third country should follow the international labor and environmental standards, should enforce their environmental and labor laws, etc. Very important, the sustainable trade of natural resources, timber and fish, because of the field of fish industry. It's really dangerous, and the European Union stands to stop it. And also combat illegal trade of fauna or encourage trade that supports tackling climate change. How it works in practice? Of course, different trade agreements, there are different trades. It's very easy to make good, fair trade agreement in a small country which needs the European Union, and it's not so easy to push the same already said it's not so easy to push tough environmental and social regulation to a big country which has which is too strong, the US, not China. This morning already I mentioned the Bruegel Institute. We had a debate on the macro power issue. I don't want to go back to that debate. But the Bruegel institution, a Brussels-based think tank, rather influential, they made a report on the EU-Turkey energy. And I don't mention the macro part. I mentioned the other part which says that it will be very, very important for Turkey to move from gas towards renewable energy efficiency, carbon fiber. And we are really worrying about that Turkey is the third largest coal power plant development, and the European Union strongly like to advise Turkey instead of developing new coal plants, building good renewable. You have almost all possibilities for it, because there is the sun always, there are lots of seasides, because the offshore wind is far more efficient, and coming from a land. So we know that our windmills are far not so effective as those offshore windmills which can be put here around the huge sea coast of Turkey. So don't rush to coal. That would be the first message of this Bruegel Institute. I hope I will get this question from you. But I'd like to say, and perhaps you can remember it for me, that don't believe that the EU is good or the EU is bad. The European Union is an institution where 28 countries belong, where almost stays in UK, almost 600 million people live there. There are some areas inside the European Union which are far more undeveloped than Sweden. There are parts of London which are really far distant. There are politicians in Europe who are even more stupid than some of the politicians. And of course, there are politicians who are wise and they work for the future. And of course, that should be my last sentence. The European Union many times criticized to be a little bit too bureaucratic because there is a council, there is a parliament, a commission. One legislation goes around for years, and first reading, second reading, and even third reading. But that's how the European Union is strong, because behind every decision there are a lot of debates, there are a lot of compromises, there are a lot of different views canalized together. That's how it can build up solid. Thank you very much.
Many thanks. This overview of the European Union's policies and deficits in the European Union's ability to implement high standards inside the European Union and also promote them in international negotiations or in wider negotiations with third countries. Judith, it's your turn. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much once again. I think some of you were also in the morning session, so I will not repeat myself. I will try to be more specific on the climate politics, energy policies of Turkey, and a little bit about the current challenges of environmental matters or issues in Turkey. So in the morning session, we talked about the uniqueness of Turkey's climate policies, but also the environmentalism in Turkey. And if you remember, many things, many challenges about the climate policies in Turkey are related to energy. So that's why I wanted to start for this session for a small, brief summary of Turkey's energy policy. This is coming from one of my presentations in the Brugge about Turkey's energy politics in the framework of Europe. I tried to be very fast, so just to show you the general picture, not to I'm not going to details of numbers, but Turkey's energy policy, which is very important for its environmental and climate policies, are based on three ideas. The first is growth, because Turkey still has a relatively high population growth, but also economic growth. And economic growth means more energy demand. So this is the first part of the story. The second is the energy independence. This is the most important official position of Turkish governments, not current government, but all the governments. Energy independence means that we don't have to rely on Russian gas or oil, etc., etc. And diversification is the third matter. So all the policies, including including the policies about renewable energy, are based on these three pillars. The power generation capacity of Turkey, installed capacity, is quite high. It's growing. It's 80, now more than 80 gigawatts. But if you look at the power sources, you see that still gas is the first, but coal is going up. So coal was not that much decade ago. Hydropower was Turkey's original energy source. Before 1980s, most of the electricity was coming from hydro, and now wind is on the system more and more, and even geothermal. Turkey is the top geothermal electricity producing country, and we are talking in Balçova, so this is a good place. And if you look at the ownership structure, Turkey liberalized its energy markets. Probably this is one of the things Turkey completed in the EU accession process, because this is one of the must of the EU accession, that your markets should be liberalized, including the energy market. Although Poland still do it, I don't know how it happened, but many countries in Europe are like this. So this shows you the power generation installed capacity increase. It's going up very steeply, especially in the last 10 years. If you look at 2010, 2006, 2016, it's double. So new power generation capacity is added to the system very fast. And you also can see the coal in the beginning. Between 10 years, 2006 and 16, coal generation capacity really increased more than the others. And also you see hydro increased, but this hydro is different than dams. These are mostly small. The new additional capacity is mostly small hydropower plants, which are also very important for the environmental policies, because it was objected by the local communities, mostly in Black Sea and regions, because of its environmental destruction, water rights, etc. By the way, most of the additional capacities are private. All of the additional capacity, almost all, the hydro and almost all coal are private companies. If you look at the generation, then of course, again, gas is more, but the percentage of renewable energy is less than installed capacity because of the the capacity reasons. Always the fossil fuels capacity is higher than wind and solar, so you need to have more installed capacity to get the same power generation from the fossil fuels. This is very tricky. Now, I showed you the first slide that Turkey's energy policy is based on the argument of independence. So Turkey is building new coal power plants, mostly because they want to get rid of more gas imports from Russia and other countries, and they make this argument that the government makes this argument that we want domestic energy sources. That's why we are more on coal side now. But if you look at from 2000 to 2016, the domestic and imported share of the power generation installed capacity will change, because when you are open the way for domestic coal, you are also opening the way of imported coal. So if you look at this, you see that the percentage of the power generation from imported coal is more than domestic lignite, because of several reasons. It's better quality coal, energy, it provides more energy. Lignite is basically burning stone, so it's very lower quality coal, etc., etc. So most of the coal power is coming from imported coal. So the independence argument is not really working, because if you really want to shift to coal, you have to import. So it's against the argument of energy independence. Again, same I guess. Okay, this is power generation. This is installed capacity. Installed capacity. More than half of installed capacity is imported, and almost half of the power generation is imported. So that's why energy imports is the #1 reason of the current account deficit in the country. So this is the main reason, main economic reason to get more energy independence. And this graph shows you that this red line is private, and the blue line is public investments, or the public share in the energy sector, electricity and power generation. So after 2010's energy market, almost, not completely, but majority private. If you look at the distribution inside the renewable sources, now you see that dams, which means the big hydropower electric plants, are the majority of the renewables, because this is the historical energy source of Turkey. We have big dams in the eastern part of Turkey mostly, but small hydro is already 20% of all. So there are probably more than 700, I don't know, maybe 500 small hydropower plants all over Turkey. So it's a huge problem also in the local level. Geothermal has a small share, and wind is growing very fast. Even solar, which didn't exist for, I don't know, 2 to 3 years ago, it's started something like a 1 megawatt of capacity of solar. So the summary, yes, Turkey is a sun and wind country, and it didn't use its capacity so far, but it started. Fortunately, because of the several reasons, that technology is better now, costs are declining very fast, then Turkey already started to install renewable energy plants, like wind, not only hydro, but wind and solar. This is the hydropower installed capacity increase. This is the Turkey's solar energy potential atlas. Maybe it's not easy to understand. Of course, the southern parts are more sunny. But one thing you need to know, that now Germany is Europe's solar power champion. Germany produces the majority of the solar power in Europe and in the world. And the most sunny place of Germany is like this. Okay. So Turkey has such a capacity to use, but didn't use it so far. Also, wind power. By the way, Turkey's solar and wind targets are not very high, but Turkey's 2023 target for solar is 5,000 megawatts. For wind, it's 20,000 megawatts. So it's not bad, but Turkey can, with this potential, can do more in terms of renewable energy. This is potential for the wind, and it's also Turkey is the for the solar potential first in Europe, for the wind potential second in. So Turkey's potential is very high. And also Turkey invented something very interesting last year, that this YEKA, renewable energy designated areas law, provided 2 new tenders. One is 1,000 megawatts of Solar, one is 1,000 megawatts, so wind investments, one in Konya, one in several places. But the prices are very important here. You see, for the solar, the price is 7 US cents per kilowatt hour, and for the wind, it's 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour. This is the cheapest price in the world. And if you compare it with the nuclear, in Akkuyu nuclear power plant, Russian company Rosatom will produce electricity, and it will sell the electricity to Turkish distribution system with 12.5 US cents per kilowatt hour. You see how expensive the nuclear power if you compare it with renewable. And renewable is now even cheaper than coal in this, if you get these numbers. At least the new coal is much expensive than renewable. Existing coal is almost the same. So it's a very interesting picture. So of course we have several problems to realize this potential, but we can discuss it a bit later. The energy efficiency is another problem. Look at this picture, it's very interesting. This is one of the main problems about Turkey's environmental politics. Turkey's energy intensity means that how much energy you use for $1 of production, or $1 of economy or growth or whatever, how much energy you need. For the energy efficiency, for a better economy, for a better environment, you need to decrease the energy. You need to produce more with less energy. This is the basic idea. But from 1990 to 2012, Turkey's energy intensity didn't change. Didn't change. And this is the declining line of the G20 energy. Turkey is very unsuccessful on the energy efficiency, and it has a very large potential to decrease this energy intensity. What happens if you decrease your energy intensity? If you decrease your energy intensity and if you provide more energy efficiency, then your greenhouse gas emissions also decline, your energy bill decline, and there's a lot of other air pollution would be better, etc. So it's very important. And this is the carbon intensity of the energy sector. It also didn't change since 1990. It's even a little bit increasing. So it's not very wise energy policy. So Turkey's climate policy is based on this energy policy, basically. As I said in the morning session, it's mostly based on the principles of non-liability. I'm not responsible. And it's based on special circumstances, which means that Turkey is a developed country in the Framework Convention of Climate Change since 1992, but it has special circumstances because as an OECD country, which is not so developed like the other European countries and the American countries, the Americans or Japan, etc. So it has special circumstances not to get very high reduction targets, etc. So these special circumstances unfortunately created a kind of frozen climate policy for Turkey. It doesn't change, it doesn't move anywhere. So you cannot really get any responsibility, you cannot get any reduction. And it's also not good for the internal economic policies because you cannot get real incentive or benefit from for example, renewable energy, from the energy efficiency, from green production, other green growth, green economy, etc. Even the waste management. For example, if I give you a hint about the waste management in Turkey, it's very sad. If you look at the municipal waste, it means the domestic waste, garbage, 90% of the domestic waste of household waste of Turkey is deposited either completely wild away or regular way, but just deposited without any recycling, without any composting, or without any energy production from the waste, etc. Only 9-10% of waste is used for half of the 10% is used for recycling, and the half of the 10% is used for energy, composting, etc. So I don't remember the number for Germany, but it's majority of the waste is used for either for energy or biogas or whatever. So we still need to use the environmental policy for economic, for producing growth, for more wealth out of this environmental policy. This is the green economy approach, which is not very popular, unfortunately, in Turkey. So also the financial support eligibility. This is very interesting things that I will talk about this later at the end. But in terms of Turkey's climate policy, we need to know this graph. This is a very interesting graph. Since 1992, from the first convention, framework convention for climate change, and then Kyoto Protocol in 1997, Turkey didn't get any targets for reducing its emissions. Turkey didn't get any commitment for this. But then, with the civil society pressure, with the EU process also helped a lot. So Turkey, during the first years of EU process, Turkey decided to ratify Kyoto Protocol, and it became party of Kyoto Protocol. Then it was 2009. By the way, it's also very interesting for the international relations students here. It's very funny story that I was one of the campaigners at the time that we tried to push Turkey to sign Kyoto Protocol in 2006 and 2007 because it was very important, not because Turkey will get any reduction target inside the Kyoto Protocol because it was too late, but it was important because it would make Turkey be more responsible in the climate scene, international climate negotiations after it's signed or it's ratified, more correct way. Then we made a big campaign, including a petition campaign. It was before the change.org time. We didn't have change.org at that time, but we managed to collect 170,000 signatures from all over Turkey, and we submitted it to the parliament. We did some hearings. We participated in some hearings in the parliament, etc. Then, 2 years after that, 1.5 years after that, Parliament decided to approve Kyoto Protocol. But very interesting, the reason, the stated reason was, of course, climate protection is very important, etc., etc., and we want to become a part of the international environmental politics. That was true. And also the pressure from the grassroots, pressure from the people who were really influential at that time, that was also true. But then we heard that main reason why the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which was before against, that became pro-Kyoto Protocol, because in the same year, Turkey was candidate for the Security Council of the UN. So they wanted to become nicer to the United Nations and international community, that they decided to ratify Kyoto Protocol. Anyway, so after we ratified Kyoto Protocol, then Turkey became a party also for the next agreement. Gradually it turned out to be Paris Agreement in 2015. And just before 2015, in the Paris Agreement, it became clear that this time the agreement would be different than Kyoto Protocol, because in the Kyoto Protocol, all the climate protection targets, which means that the reduction of the emissions targets for the countries, were given from the system. It means it was top-down system, and it was a part of the global target. 5% reduction of the emissions gases in the Kyoto Protocol was the global target. But that time, in Paris Agreement, global target is different. Global target is keeping the global temperature increase well below 2 degrees. This is the global target. But there is no emissions reduction global target, so all the countries should accept a national target, nationally determined contribution, is called NDC, which is consistent with the 2 degrees target. Okay, so this is very important. For the fair share, responsibility, etc., you need to get a target of the emissions reduction, but it should be also consistent with the 2 degrees, 1.5 degrees targets. So Turkey decided to submit this INDC, which means intended nationally determined contribution target to the UN system just before Paris Agreement. According to the system, Turkey, the blue line shows you the business as usual increase of the Turkey's global greenhouse gas emission. Turkey says that I will increase my greenhouse gas emissions, which was 430 in 2012, it will be so this is million tons, so 430 million tons to 1,175,000,000 tons in 2030. This is the projection as business as usual. So this is thinking that we don't do anything, so it will be in the blue line. And they say that now we are going to implement the climate action plan, and with this plan we will decrease the emissions 21% according to business as usual scenario. So it means that we will emit 929 million tons in 2030. But in other words, this is declared as 21% reduction target. But if you look at the graph, this really is 110% increase target. So Turkey is committed itself to increase its emissions 110% in 18 years. So maybe we can discuss about this, which is very interesting thing. So if you look at the share of coal in this, share of coal in the emissions is 1/3. So Turkey wants to increase its coal share in the energy system. So sorry, this is also interesting that this is the 2030 target, and it means now today per capita emission of Turkey is 6 tons, 6.3 tons, and if it's true, if we get this target, then Turkey's per capita emission will be 11 tons 2030, which will be probably 1.5-fold of the average. Okay, so this is the baseline of the Turkey's energy and climate policies. I think it deserves a lot of discussion. Only to finish, I will add something about the current challenges of Turkey's environmental politics. The main problem is, besides this energy climate nexus or energy climate challenge, there is a governmental policy which is directly relating the economic success or economic growth to the construction and projects related to construction. If you look at the popular projects in Turkey now, you will see that all of them are based on construction sector. Low technology, more labor intensive, and also energy intensive and emissions intensive industries like bridges, highways, etc. And the most dramatic one is Kanal Istanbul. So Kanal Istanbul is a very big project. It's called Crazy Project. It's a mega project. I still don't know how to dig this. It's not very realistic. But on the other hand, it is the basic argument of Kanal Istanbul, as you know, is protecting Bosphorus from the shipping. Besides all the problems about Montreux Treaty, etc., there is something else. If you look at the news, there is very interesting news. A couple of weeks ago, published in one of the newspapers, the Turkish, TOKİ. You know what is TOKİ? I try to find, Real Estate Housing Investment Trust. So TOKİ is the biggest one. And it's one of the companies of TOKİ, Emlak Konut. They put in their website that already they planned 33 new housing development projects on the route of Kanal Istanbul. So they already planned to build site, so it's 33 new big housing development projects. That means that this Kanal Istanbul was only, the main reason of Kanal Istanbul is developing new land for new housing development projects, new malls, shopping centers, etc. Why? Because the economic policy, main economic policy of this government, I can give you several references on this, also by the economists, that at least at the last 10, 15 years, the main driver of the economic growth became pollution-intensive, low technology industries and very energy-intensive industries. And because of this, several changes happened in the environmental policies in Turkey. The first one, this is very important. First one is environmental impact assessment regulation. You know, if you really want to measure one country's environmental standards or environmental policies, the first thing you should look at the environmental impact assessment regulation. This is the official number that in the period of 1993 to 2016, only 46 projects get negative results from the environmental impact assessment. What is the total number? 3,562. So something like 1%. So 99% of the projects get the positive. And in the last few years, exemption process became the dominant. So it means that you apply for a project for environmental impact assessment, and the ministry decides that you're exempt. You don't need any environmental impact assessment. And it is the case even for third area. The second main policy change is urgent expropriation decision. You know what is this? The urgent expropriation decision means, normally it's coming from very old law, but it was never used. It means that during the wartime, state can expropriate, I don't know how to, am I telling right? Expropriation, right? Kamulaştırma. So you can expropriate the land, whatever you want, as the state, because of the war reasons. This article was never used. But in the last 10 years, between 2004 and 2014, this article was used 828 times. And it was all for the mining projects, roads, or hydropower plants, etc. So it means that you cannot buy I cannot buy your land. I want to build whatever plant in your farm. I cannot buy your plant because you refuse. Then I go to the Ministry of Environment or Ministry of Energy, and by the Ministry of Energy, they expropriate your land for me, and they give it to me as a company. So this is the usual practice in Turkey, which is completely, of course, undemocratic, etc., etc. But this is the way of the fast, very rapid developmental policies, which is also very problematic from the point of view. So I took too long, so I stop here, but we can discuss during the questions. Thank you.
Well, it was not too long, it was interesting
Yes.
to see all these figures and developments. I had some knowledge on Turkey's environment policy, but this was really enriching my knowledge. Many thanks for this information. Yes, now it's up to you to comment on the statements or ask questions related to the presentations, but maybe also beyond presentation. Yes, energy efficiency.
Exactly.
We don't need too much air conditioning. I agree. Yes, who wants to ask something? Ask you. Yeah, of course, you need to ask for permission.
Well, I want to ask that I really want to interested in the construction issue, and there's a new law or something in the process that you might have. Is it about the same issue? You might have, like opening the. I heard that Muğla and the seaside parts of the Muğla will be.
I really don't know. That's an interesting question. This is the amnesty for the old illegal houses, right? If you have an illegal, if you build an illegal house somewhere, then you have to leave it or whatever. You have to give a lot of money to the state. But then all of a sudden they declared an amnesty for that. But this is not new. This happens almost before almost every election. So they give you the the ownership of this occupied land of yours, not free. I don't know how is it happening in this time, but not free, but with a small money, then you can own that occupied land. This is mostly political thing to get votes. But this time it may be related to construction because it is also together with the transformation of the old houses to new ones, right? This is the urban transformation. That if you now have the ownership of this land, then you can demolish the old house and you can build a new one. So it can also fuel the construction sector. You're right. It can be related, but the probably main reason is elections.
Yes, someone please.
What do you think about the current nuclear power plants in Turkey construction? I know that nuclear power is the most capacity one, but all has environmental benefits besides. So, is it really logical to have this practice?
Yeah, in my opinion, this is also very much related to political reasons, not only the internal political reasons, but also the international relations with Russia, etc., etc. But if you ask me about the energy side, it's not very reasonable, not only because of the environmental problems or the accidents. I'm against nuclear mostly because it's dangerous and its waste problem is huge, etc. But just to ignore the environmental problems, but only look at the economic part. It is now all over the world, it is the most expensive energy production way for the new ones. They cheat people to show the energy production prices from the 50-year-old nuclear power plants. Of course, they are cheap.
Sustainable.
Yeah. But for the new ones, this Akkuyu power plant, the construction cost from the beginning is $20 billion. And if they could make it at the end, it will provide for the time they finish around 2030. It will provide only 5 to 6% of the electricity generation in Turkey. They say 10% because they take today's numbers. If you take on the denomination, if you take the projection of 2030, it's something like 5 to 6% of energy generation. It's only something like 4.8 gigawatts, not much. And it's very costly, and it takes a lot of time to finish. In Finland, they started Olkiluoto, new nuclear power plant. I don't know when, I already forgot it. They started it and they cannot finish. Because it's very costly, it's very slow process. Then you cannot rely on nuclear power plant even for the climate policy because it doesn't release carbon dioxide, so it looks like good for the climate, but you cannot rely on this because it's too costly and it's too long process. You need to transform your energy system today. You need to close your lignite plants, coal plants, and you need to transform it to solar and wind. It's quite fast process. It's the building a wind power plant is just very basic construction. It's only depending on the production of the turbine, etc. But for the nuclear plant, it's very old style, very expensive. Only some countries like England, China, they can do it for the national reasons, national economic reasons, but even UK cannot do it itself. So France is going to make it, Areva, the new idea, etc. And it's very costly and it takes a lot of time to decide, etc. So I don't think it's a wise decision.
They are the most coal production. China, for example, most, it uses the most biggest
Coal.
Coal, yes. But Turkey is the third.
Yeah.
Coal use.
And you also compare the price. That was interesting.
Yes.
The price for electricity from wind and solar power plants was between 4 and 7 cents.
Yes.
And in comparison from nuclear power plant, it was between
12.4.
Yes.
Yeah, so 12.4 is the guaranteed price for Rosatom for 15 years. So Turkey should buy the electricity from Akkuyu, from Russia, 13.4 cents per kilowatt hour for 15 years. So think about that. The Akkuyu power plant will finish around the earliest in 2025, 26, 10 years ahead. Then plus 15 years, so 25 years after today, we will still pay Russia 12 cents for 1 kilowatt hour. That time, probably solar and wind will be almost free because prices are declining so fast for solar and wind. So it's not reasonable at all. It's completely irrational choice. It's only based on this prestige issue that we have nuclear power plant. Maybe sometime we can make atomic power. So all these, this is not realistic because you cannot make atomic. Right? In the international system today, you cannot make it. Right? It's otherwise you would become Iran or North Korea. So it's not possible. So this is also not a political reason. It's only some kind of emotional, international relations. I really don't know.
Yes, who was first? Rose, I think, yes.
I have a question, maybe not directly related to this topic, but still related with the green energy and environment. What are your thoughts about the future of the green politics in the EU level, national level, and in Turkey?
we've talked
Maybe you
last
can-
that because of economic crisis in Europe, there's less enthusiasm for more ambitious environmental standards than maybe before the economic crisis. We have talked about the different views of Eastern, Western European countries in this regard and this dismantling thesis. So that's
Yes.
the reference of course.
Yes, of course. Well, I think that in European Union, the euphoria for the green energy is a little bit less than 10 years ago. You are coming from Germany, you see that even in Germany, there was an idea that the renewable prices will be down and everybody will be the process. Nowadays, there are more and more voices. Perhaps that's not the majority, but there are a lot of problems also with renewable energies. Just mentioning the windmill. It's not an offshore windmill, which is in the seaside, the coast side. If you build up a windmill in an agricultural land, you destroy the nature, you put a lot of hundreds of tons of concrete to the soil, and that soil remains there forever, or very long. And you should build a lot of windmills. I'm not against the wind energy, I'm very positive about it. But you ask me about how people think about it. And also, as the economic crisis came to Europe, of course, other aspects became more important for the European decision makers than the green issue. I remember quite well that the Commission was working for the European Commission after my parliamentary mandate between 2010 and 2014, and then came the most important decisions are made not in the rooms but in the corridors, the lobbies. And the lobbies and the corridors say, okay, nowadays climate is the priority. Well, of course, on the TV, the Prime Minister says that climate policy is so important, but due to the effect of the financial crisis, was the climate became a second priority, not a priority. And of course, then the European Union makes a trade deal with third country. There are a lot of interest, and the economic interest usually comes first. On the other hand, for instance, trading with China, somehow China learned a lot about implementing the European environmental standards. I just mentioned one thing which was not mentioned. There's the so-called REACH. Do you know what's REACH? It's a European standard about chemical substances, which everything in this bottle, plastic bottle, there are thousands or hundreds of dangerous substances. So this REACH made a regulation for more than 10,000 different chemical substances. All these substances should be checked by the expense of the producer, by the factory or company which produces. Then we had a parliamentary debate of this REACH. There were two reactions, one from the US and one from China. The US, because the US exports a lot of chemical products to the European. The reaction was that they tried to lobby, they tried to have a softer REACH, they tried to change the decision in the favor of the American products. And what was the Chinese reaction? They wanted to learn very quickly, they wanted to learn the secrets of the REACH, how to implement it as soon as possible to export for the European market REACH fit articles. So China can learn, and if we are very strong altogether, then we can push them for a more environment friendly export, at least export. It does mean that in their own home they have the same standard. So I think if the European Union is strong, it can reach a lot to reach, yes. It can reach a lot in environmental policy. If there are different interests, if the public cannot understand the importance of the new initiatives. The energy prices are going up, and some politicians blame the renewable for it. Then
Okay. Then, yes.
And I want to ask you about your ex-character.
yeah, the Socialist Party, the European Parliament.
Yes, right.
Yeah, EPP is the European People's Party.
Oh, sorry.
It's far from. It's far from this party. The outer. Yeah, European Parliament. Yes, yeah, I tell you very shortly, not so important person, so I try to give a brief biography. Well, I had worked as a journalist. You know, Hungary was a so-called socialist country until 1990, and I didn't involve in politics, so I wrote about film and theater and culture. And after 1990, I started to write about politics, and I wrote political essays for leading newspapers. And once the oppositional leader invited me, Gyula Horn, he invited me as his advisor, besides acting as a journalist. In 1940, I was elected a member of the Hungarian National Parliament, and from the Hungarian Assembly, I went to the first group of Hungarians. Then Hungary joined the European Parliament in 2004. It was very exciting times. So we were the so-called founding fathers, founding mothers of that side. So we had a lot of women in our delegation. Like that. I worked 4 or 5 years there. My main territories were environment and social issues and culture and the West Balkan issues. So I was vice chairman of the European Parliament Macedonia Joint Parliamentary Committee. And then in 2009 I was not elected. I didn't mind too much, but then I worked 5 years, 4.5 years, the Commission, the Council, Commission, Parliament. So I saw the other side of the coin as well. And from 2014 I'm freelance journalist, and I also lead and work in Brussels.
Can I have a specific question about character? We know during this course that you do not sit like all of the Hungarian parliamentarians sit here and the other parliamentarians from Germany sit there, like etc. You sit like your political approaches. West.
Yeah, we are living in our political groups. Yes, yes.
Have you ever faced that challenge in which you have to choose between your country's interests or your own personal interests?
It's a very good question. It's a big good question. Yes, we try to work as a member of a political group, and sometimes there came certain issues when we, at least in the socialist group, there's a discipline. So if you vote against the group or you abstain from voting, generally if you don't agree and if you are afraid that in your newspaper will be written that you are a traitor of the homeland, you voted against the Hungarian taxi workers, then first you try to explain why you vote for the group, or you abstain. Voting against this, it's not very good. It doesn't happen too many times, but also goes for the commissioners. So I learned in the commission that the commissioner never say that the country I am coming from, the country I represent. They used to say the country which I know the best, the country which I would say, the country, Germany, yeah, that's the country I know the best. But he never says, I am from Germany, I represent Germany. Values, yes. But also there are, you mentioned two points of view, the political group and your nations. And there's a third one, I think, individual. For instance, if there is that vote about euthanasia, abortion. I think many socialists are Christian believers, and it comes to their mind. I remember, I'm a Catholic, I'm a believer, not so strongly, but yes. I remember when in the Hungarian parliament we voted about the abortion, I had abstained. So it was a critical issue.
I want to ask about your opinion about Brexit. What will be the main challenge to the European Union?
I'm smiling because in the lunch we talked about it. Well,
How are the polls going about that?
yes, I think it's very important in human life that you have to draw positive consequences from a fact. So there is one fact. There can be two kinds of consequences, bad or good. Try not to believe in the good. It sounds very simple, but I tell you that in the European Union, UK, the United Kingdom, they opposed almost everything which was socially, culturally, environment. They were against working hours directly. They said, well, if a worker wants to work, why cannot he work 7 hours? They were against real environmental projects. They did believe, they did want to give more money for the Erasmus Plus program, because why? So to the British world, and of course, they did want to pay more money to the funds. So I hope, and it's a very, very fragile hope, I hope that after the Brexit, if the France and Germany remains a strong driver of the European Union, if they remain liberal democracies, if they believe in Europe, I think the Germans and France, Macron, Merkel, duo, they are not so strong as 1 year before we believe they are. But I think they can turn the EU for a more cooperative, more social, more environmental way. And if you don't mind, I'd like to react one sentence to your statement about the property, the ownership of the energy sector. Quite rightly, you mentioned that in Turkey there are two kinds of ownership, private and state. But there is a third one, the cooperative. Yes. For instance, in Denmark, the windmill sector is owned by the users. So there are 400, correct me if I'm wrong, there are 400,000 Danish citizens. They pay to build up a windmill, and the windmill produces the energy for them. They have a council, like cooperative, and this cooperative decides how to improve, how to spend the money, what should be the price of the wind energy, perhaps giving reduction for families with a lot of children or those who are in need. So if the European Union moves to a more social way, we can build up with cooperative ownership. I think if you think that the so-called socialism was bad because of the state ownership, the capitalism is not so good because the private ownership, I think the cooperative ownership at a plus. I would say everything should. But the third sector can be done. And the European Union, mostly the Scandinavian countries, a little bit France and Spain, also they have a lot of cooperative. Perhaps you don't know that the 9 biggest Spanish companies owned by more than 50,000 or 60,000 workers. Spanish. Sorry, I was doing.
No, very interesting aspect, because I've heard from people living in the neighborhood of Urla that once you have constructed this windmill, it's a money printing machine, yes. Because you don't need a lot of money to repair, so it's very convenient, and the wind is there, so you just just need to construct it once and then you can earn money.
Yeah, yeah.
And expensive, but heating is very good.
Not very expensive.
Good ones are expensive.
But you can finance it, middle income, family, but not everyone can construct his own windmill in his garden. But if you put together, let's say, 100 people, 1,000 people, then
Space for
that's also correct.
you know,
It can. It can, but it should be from the beginning. Otherwise, it's too costly. But normally, if you do it, even you can build a skyscraper as a passive house. It's possible, but the one thing that it was very important that you added about this energy cooperative, yes, I think it's very important for the experience also from Germany for the development of renewable energy. If you look at the ownership structure in Germany, all of the coal and nuclear power plants are owned by only 5 companies. It's an oligopolistic structure, RWE, Vattenfall, whatever it is. 5 companies own all the power plants. But if you look at the renewable side, 50% of all the solar and wind and biofuel plants are owned by citizens, not even cooperatives. Some are owned by cooperatives, but some are even by the citizens, that just the rooftop panels. Or some farmers put solar panels onto their farms, etc. This is the half of the renewable energy plants. And just remember that the share of renewable energy, wind, there's no hydro in Germany too much, only 1%, but only wind, solar, and biofuel is producing 30% of Germany electricity in Germany. So it's a huge, and the half of this is owned by private citizens, by you, only as like a normal electricity consuming person. You can also producing energy. You produce your own energy, but also you sell the excess to the grid. So this is the system in Germany and in many European countries. Also, there are energy cooperatives, not only in Denmark, but also in Belgium, France, Germany, etc. So in Turkey, energy cooperatives is possible now. 2 years ago, or last year, I think, they changed the law, cooperative law. It was not possible before. Now it's possible. Several energy cooperatives were founded, but they didn't start production yet. But they will start mostly solar. Wind is a little bit costly for the cooperatives, but solar is possible. So it will start also in Turkey. It creates a lot of profit.
Yes, because you mentioned Germany, things have changed in a very short time. When I was a high school student, we also had this debate about continuing electricity production mainly by nuclear plants, or what can be the role of renewable energy, and the discourse was very pessimistic. It's too expensive, cannot replace conventional electricity production. And look, the figures now, for the year 2016-17, 1/3 of the electricity production in Germany comes from renewable energy. And this is a very industrialized country, which needs a lot of energy, and it's possible. So therefore, when we compare it to the situation in Turkey, and the figures seems to be just frustrating. Renewable energy is how much? The total in Turkey?
Renewable.
Yes,
6%.
6%, and solar is one of these 6% is nothing. But it doesn't need to be like this in 20 years. Huh? It depends on imagination, it depends on pressure, and from society and NGOs, and then maybe in 20, 30 years, the energy production in Turkey is completely different. It's possible, because you said Germany is the solar champion. Huh? Germany would be happy to be the solar champion because we have so much rain compared to Turkey, and still produce so much more solar energy with this, in comparison to Turkey, low amounts of sun.
And compared to Germany and Turkey, Germany's installed capacity is something like 200,000 megawatts, I guess. Turkey is 80,000 megawatts, and among this 200,000, 1/3 is renewable. It's huge.
So, sorry, just last short sentence. It's a very easy example of how to improve the solar energy. It depends on the taxation. If you, the VAT, the value added tax should generate 20-25% for that sort of that. If you make a law that is zero for the solar collector, then you make a big step forward that every family can achieve. Actually, in our country, until the last changes, it was zero.
Also, the feed-in tariffs. There is a feed-in tariff in Turkey too, so they pay more for the renewable than the coal. So, if you are producing electricity from a renewable plant, then your price is higher than
That's
higher than the coal plant. So it's a good system
to
incentivize.
Almost every European country.
Germany really used this system to increase its share. Now they are changing the system, but in the beginning it was this system.
Yes.
Would you have a question?
I asked something about when we talk about solar power. I asked about the daylight saving time. Almost 2 or 3 years we don't arrange our clocks at some time. I want to ask, is it energy based or is it energy saving as politician says?
I really don't know. And I'm also wondering a lot, because some of the engineers claim that it's good for energy saving, some are saying the opposite. I really don't know. For the daily life, it doesn't seem very rational, because you wake up in the dark, so it's weird. But I don't know, in the energy, I don't know.
Other questions?
I would like to ask the making of the power, like the plant in the it's delayed maybe because of the problem with Russia, the crisis. Is it so or not?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, because now this is a very interesting agreement, because Turkey couldn't make it. Turkey's tried to build a nuclear power plant since 1976 for 42 years. Then they couldn't make it because of several reasons. One of them was economic reasons. So 2008, there was a new tender for the nuclear power plant, and none of the big beer companies went into this, like Westinghouse or Toshiba, etc. They didn't want to make it. Then only Rosatom was interested in the construction. Then Turkey decided not to make a tender, but to make a direct agreement with Russia. So Turkey and Russia signed the international agreement. So you cannot, that's the interesting part of the story, is that you cannot go to the court against this, because it's an international agreement. This is also another reason. Then they decided to give this acquis to Rosatom, which is a state-owned energy company of Russia, part of Gazprom, partly Rosatom, for building the nuclear power plant, producing electricity for 60 years, and the commissioning. The commissioning is maybe 40 years, 30 years. It's a very long process. So it means that minimum 100 years, this is a BOO agreement, build, own, operate. May also decommission. So it's a very interesting agreement that you gave this land to Russia, and their share cannot be lower than 51% according to the agreement. So they can sell 49%, but they cannot sell the majority. So They should find money. Turkey doesn't have any responsibility to find money to build it. And they are responsible for everything. In the agreement, there is nothing about waste. Nothing is clear about how to manage waste, for example, nuclear waste. And there is no word about what happens if there is radiation leak, for example. None of the Turkish authorities have any authority to do anything in the case of accident or whatever. So the agreement is very good for the Russians. Everything is there. And then they will sell you electricity with a fixed price for minimum 15 years. And so it's also from their side it's costly because they need to find the money, but none of the European banks are giving loan for nuclear anymore. It's old times, you know, it was in the old times. None of the European investment banks give money for nuclear, so they should find all the investment money, and ruble is, you know, going down. There's a lot of political tensions around, etc., sanctions, whatever. So probably this is also my guess that this is one of the reasons why they cannot start construction. So they had this land for 7-8 years, so they cannot. They just built ports. I don't know, small things, but not the construction of reactor. I hope they cannot do it at all.
Any question left? Maybe a last question back to this European and Turkey relation.
Let me ask one
Oh yes, okay.
to our guests.
Yes.
From your perspective, if Turkey be member of EU, what can be changed in Turkey, and what's your suggestion to be member of EU to Turkey?
Oh, it's a very hard question because I don't want to go to domestic politics. Definitely not.
And because we always discuss in our country to if we should member or not, what's negative or positive achievements of.
Yes, I understand you. It's very hard for me to speak on the Turkish side because I live in Europe, I wouldn't say under-Europe, but in Eastern Europe, Central Eastern European country. And actually, I try to be very frank. The EU, I think, would be far stronger with Turkey. So it would be a big achievement for Europe to have Turkey as a member. But also, there are a lot of problems, mostly about Anatolia, I think, this area. Because the European Union wants to leave behind the agricultural issues. So I think 5 or 6% of the EU citizens are working still in agriculture. They want to rebuild the agricultural funds. And if Turkey would be a full member, Turkey would get full funds for all agricultural activities. After every acre or hectare land, money would come here from the European budget. It should be far. There are also, I try to be very honest, there are also some geostrategic, geopolitical considerations that Turkey is involved in different crisis areas where Europe is not involved. I think you know what I'm talking about. So, and of course, the Turkish democracy is a little bit different. I'm coming from Hungary, so we can complain a lot about our democracy, my democracy. But speaking about Europe, whole concept of democracy is a little bit there. But also, as we talked in the lunchtime, that it would be very, very useful to have a Muslim member state. On the other hand, modern, liberal Muslim country that would change the whole atmosphere of the European. So I think I wish Turkey could be a member of the European Union, but I don't see in the next future how it can be achieved without mentioning the present political situation. So I would say the same if after June there would be a different. But I think a special status that would be first very positive step. And I think a lot of time and possibility were lost because there was a fake alternative, full membership or nothing. That was a mistake. I think there was a moment when a special status could be achieved as a first step to a full membership, more or less.
We do have the last minutes also.
The last minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I was always pro-EU in terms of more democratic standards and, better environmental standards, better life quality, whatever reasons, and also for the political stability. On the other hand, yeah, EU is not a paradise. It's also a field of many struggles, and we also see that in many countries like Hungary, Poland, democracy can go very bad, even if you are a European Union member. So it's a continuous political struggle. It's not the end of everything, so becoming a member of EU. But I would be still in favor of being a full member, because it's a political process, and you should be part of the political process in Brussels. So this is the heart of the European Union idea. The other one can be only a trade partner or something like that. So it's a different story. It's about business, but in terms of democracy, in terms of political process, being full member means something. Right? So it's that time in 2004-05, not only Turkey made mistakes, Europeans did a lot of mistakes. The biggest mistake was Cyprus referendum. The European politicians did a big mistake that the Greek part refused the referendum. Then, after they refused the referendum, they said no. They accepted Cyprus as a member of the EU. It was a big mistake to block the way of Turkey. So they made that mistake. I always say this also in the Green group, European Green Party, that this was your mistake, not the Greens' mistake, but the European Union's mistake that time, because this was a very good opportunity that if they could say to Cyprus that you cannot be member without unification, everything can be different, would be different. But then they missed that chance, and they, especially Sarkozy and some others, used this against Turkey. So both sides made mistakes, and unfortunately we are far away from being membership. But I wish.
Yes, and still, although there are these problems at political level, we've talked about the class and also in the morning class, there is still progress at technical level. And environmental policy is quite often a technical process. And yes, Turkey can still benefit from knowledge transfer, from free interaction with Commission officials.
Erasmus.
Yes, but it's not linked to environmental policy, but that is also very important. Erasmus exchange, and our university has a lot of cooperation agreements with universities in the European Union, so that all students can go and see life and culture in other countries. Okay, many thanks for your interest. Many thanks for these very interesting speeches. Before we leave the classroom, I suggest that we have a group picture with the speakers. Come to the board.
Let me take your photo.
Yes, please. This is a banners list that you all signed. Let's come. Join us for a picture. You need to come here.
Ja, go to the
All right. Many thanks.
So you send me the picture, right?
I will send you the picture.